Are you wondering how you can contribute to Funniest Thing?
Don't flip out. Go to patreon.com/funniest thing.
Whoa!
Oh!
That would have been crazy.
Welcome to The Funniest Thing.
Yes.
Where each week we share stories about how stepping out boldly always leads to better than expected outcomes.
Yes, it does.
I'm Darrell.
I'm Ed.
And we're broadcasting live from Edward.
CHOBO Studios.
Beautiful.
Downtown Van Nuys. Hey, Indy, how we doing today?
We're doing great. It's episode 100 from CHOBO.
Yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the beautiful tray of cupcakes that Tori baked for us and decorated, and
They have step out boldly, yes, let go, joy, fun, faith, let God.
Let go, let God. Step
It's
out boldly.
Funniest Thing, Darrell and Ed
And they have sprinkles.
We just happened to get the wrong parchment paper. We got the non-stick on accident, and they kind of they're like little flower petals.
I love it. It makes it easier to eat, man. I'm not trying to deal with a sticky wrapper, man. This is the way I should go from now on. If
Awesome.
I have cupcakes, man.
Well, thank you guys for awesome, I guess, 2 years now.
2 years and 100
eps.
shows.
Yes. And I see it's Funniest Thing with zeal and renunciation today.
What's that? Oh,
The whiteboard there.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Funniest Thing with zeal and renunciation.
Yes.
If you want to check out what we're talking about, go to YouTube, Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed. If you're on YouTube and you want to listen on the go to any podcast app.
That's
Apple
right.
Podcast. Even if you don't know what a podcast is, your phone likely has a podcast app.
And you can listen to us
Tell
there.
someone to find it for you, and you can find Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed there, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get podcasts. Today's show, this is really good. Quit Your Day Job with May McCarthy, who will be joining us during the second segment. May McCarthy is going to bring a lot of inspiration to us today. We all want to be prosperous. We all want to tap into our divine potential. We all want to take God as our business partner. And that's exactly what May McCarthy is all about. At least one of the things. So our show, Quit Your Day Job. Don't make life a job. Live it from the inside out. Live intuitively and prosper. Trust your intuition. Every goal, desire, and dream is easier than we tend to believe, simply because it is beyond what we've known. It is outside of the familiar box we've kept ourselves in. On this episode, Darrell and Ed remind listeners and each other that stepping out boldly is really just being willing to discover we've been wrong about what we thought were our limits. And during the second segment, Miracle Madam May McCarthy. She has authored books such as The Gratitude Formula and The Path to Wealth. Today, she's encouraging us to trust our intuitive leads with today's reading, Willing and Expectant, and a whole lot more.
Now, are we going to jump right into these breaths, or am I going to read a little from Ponder first?
Let's read something from Ponder first. Catherine Ponder, that is, The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity, a great book.
Yes, this is a...
Darrell doesn't usually read thick books of this nature, so this one has to be a good one.
No, I prefer the little thin books, like the Florence Scovel Shin or the Catherine Ponder, the thin book she has. This is like a ton of those books in one book.
Yeah.
But I highly recommend it. And yes, Ed's correct, because it's hard to read in bed when they're this big. I like the thin ones, and you can carry them in your car, the thin ones.
Yes.
But this one is really worth getting, and I'm just going to read this. If you have the book, The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity, this is from page 161, and it sums up this episode perfectly. And I'm going to use my glasses so I don't skip anything. Okay, here we go. Things cannot improve in an outer way until things change in an inner way, because the inner processes of the mind control all the outer experiences of our lives. If you are in the midst of apparent failure, financial difficulties, or restlessness and dissatisfaction with your work, none of these conditions need prevent you from entertaining ideas of abundance, plans for riches, and mental images of the success which you seek. Nothing can stop you from moving toward your goals mentally as you ask divine intelligence what next steps you are to take to bring forth your desires. And this whole episode and what we're all going to be talking about is how you can literally ask for a lead, which is inviting your intuition to help direct you. And I always like to say, when I'm unsure, and make it obvious. Give me a sign and make it obvious.
Yes.
And she wraps this up with saying, we live in a sea of energy and intelligence, according to the scientists, and we have constant access to its benefits if we ask for them. Your ships come in only after you have sent them out.
Nice. Yeah, we're always really sending them out. It's just like how attuned are we to what we're sending out from our heart and our desires. Morning routine is really important for this. Taking time to read some inspired reading each morning, do some meditation of some sort. It can be really simple. Just set a timer for a few minutes even if you're new to meditation, and just breathe. Appreciate the room you're in. Send some love to people. Just relax. It's like in order for me to shift out of these old patterns of thought that, like we said, will keep us in the familiar box. It's not a wrestling match. It's more about coming into the stillness and like taking our attention off of those fast moving old patterns of thought so that they can dissipate, and then we can actually see clearly and make a new choice. And that's when we're using affirmative prayer to affirm the good in our life. And I've been using, this is something that I got from May, which is to write a letter. I have this book that I have several books because I've been going through them quickly now, and I've been writing every morning. I like the reading Take God as Your Business Partner by Emmett Fox. So I just always call it Dear God Partner or Dear God Business, whatever comes in my brain where I want to reach to that like bigger loving presence that I really know is guiding me. And and then I just thank God for everything that happened the day before or that day before I'm writing it. And then once I start getting inspired, I start claiming the things that I want to see the next day related to it's really nice. Sometimes it's really helpful. I mean, what I'm gaining from this is it doesn't matter what I'm thankful for, really, as long as I get into the vibration of thanks.
Yes.
And a nice thing that Kathy Norman recommends is adding little drawings. She said, draw yourself into the image of where you want to be. And I've kind of combined it with my letters. Sometimes I'll just do more emphasis on drawing, but sometimes I just end my Dear God Partner letters with little
doodles.
Pictures.
Yeah, simple.
Doodles.
You don't have to be an artist. We don't want you to think these got to be, they just be stick figures. And I just want to add this.
Yeah, go ahead.
The reason Kathy Norman, or the method Kathy was describing to us was, like Ed was saying, to get into a gratitude frame of feeling nature, to get into that vibration. And it's crazy that you said that, because I too drew a drawing of myself because I tweaked my back.
That's funny. Can I say I have your little face here?
Yes.
I drew yours may or may not have a little bit of a more Fazaro-esque nose on this little stick figure face.
I didn't have room for the nose on my pad.
Yeah, but I was thinking about you, and I made you smiling, and I had this little angel next to you, shining light of healing light upon you, and how you feel loved and appreciated and supported. So I was on that as well.
I tweaked my back yesterday. So the method she's teaching is to draw a simple little drawing of the outcome you want, of you celebrating the win, of you already excited. Like our friend Stephen Thorpe had a call to make to, his first interview with an agent ever, and it was a legitimate acting agent.
Yeah.
So he drew him already after the call with his cell phone in his hand going, yay!
Yes.
And I drew myself like standing like in a nice, hero position.
Yeah.
And I wrote, I feel sturdy, flexible, and strong. Solid, actually, and fueled with love, because I tweaked my back yesterday. And we should let our listeners know this. I jotted this down. It's crazy that you said that about gratitude.
Yeah.
I wrote, gratitude isn't just a nice feeling. It's a magnetic force that
Yeah.
attracts more to be grateful for.
That's so true. And last night I had 4 faces. One is you, me, Indy, and May for the show. Great show. Love, wisdom, joy, fun, prosperous insights, wholeness abound everywhere. I like to draw these little angels I've started drawing no matter where it's so that I'm remembering that there's angels everywhere, dollar signs everywhere. Yeah, so I use this in a meeting on Zoom. I have my book.
Yes.
And I drew faces, little circular smiling faces of everyone in that room. And I put one heart in the middle, like we're all connected. And I had 3 meetings in 24 hours for the students I work with, which take a lot of energy because for me, what it is, and I don't know if everyone looks at it this way, but it's a chance to encapsulate in an inspiring way where a student has been. I work with kids with like special needs, learning challenges, whatever, different ways of doing things. So my job is to frame where they've been, show their progress, show that they're growing, where they're going, like encourage everyone else there to come away feeling inspired. The kid is successful, seeing the kid successful, and doing it this way, everyone's heart opens and gets on board. And like we were able to show parents like, look, your kid's not dumb or they're just, when the way they learn different. Like there's one kid who like visual information just doesn't land on him very well. So like we were just telling her, in his case, it's better to read something to him first, just so he's heard it before. Like
Yes.
make sure you're telling him this stuff. It doesn't, like for some people, they're like, oh, that's cheating to read it first, but just the way he learns. And this,
Why is it cheating to read it first?
Well, because of the way
Who
the
makes
game.
up these
I know
laws?
exactly.
That makes no sense to me.
There's so many.
I would think, who cares?
Right. Well, yeah, it's that old like mentality of like, you don't want to give them the information ahead of, I whatever. There's like a million different things, especially when someone has had challenges over a period of time that no one understood. So they've developed these, the parent starts to feel bad, like they're in the school,
God,
like
it's horrible.
there's so much crap that can come up, but I use it as a prayer meeting to really shine light, not just on the kid, but on the parents, because the parents can, if they're in this wrong situation, can feel like they're doing something wrong. The teachers can, like everyone. My job is to just bring that light and that love. So I bring my little book. I made circles. I use the Nancy Norman, see the light of the angel of God's presence above every person in the Zoom. And I've talked about this, how since I've been doing it, almost every time, and when I look in their Zoom screen, there'll be like a light above their head, like a literal light, like a fluorescent light or a lamp. So this stuff works. And just those little reminders that God is taking care of. That's where our intuition, like, did you read that just now? We were talking about the.
No, you're good.
I'm about to read. Let me read.
But let
this.
me just say
Go
this
ahead,
first.
yeah.
The reason of the drawing your outcomes,
Yes,
the
yes, this is very
the
important.
science behind it is this. All this, like Ponder, we just read, Catherine Ponder, it's all an inside job. And that's good news. I mean, a lot of people will say that's ridiculous. That sounds like that can't be right. I just imagine these things and that changes my experience.
Yeah.
But it's actually a spiritual law, and athletes have been using it forever. I mean,
Yes.
most successful people understand these as principles and apply them regularly. So it's a combination of my thought of expectancy
Yes.
and the feeling that goes along with that, the good feeling. And that means I'm getting into the vibration or the consciousness of what I desire.
Yes.
So all it takes, the experts say, is a minimum of 17 seconds of being in that state. So that's why drawing, when you start to draw a little stick figure, or if you're, an accomplished artist and you want to take it a little further, regardless how you draw, as soon as you start drawing the outcome of your desire, all your mind can't think now of problems or doubts
correct.
It is so hyper focused on drawing the outcome.
Yeah.
And here's the other added benefit. Now you're moving out of the critical mind, the left side of your brain,
Yep.
that's always going, no, no, no. And the only reason it's saying no, no, no is because reason has its limits, which means all our reason is only based on what we already know.
Yeah.
And new experiences are unknown to that part of my brain.
Yeah.
So it sees them as being foreign and dangerous
Yeah.
and unattainable. But when you start drawing, you'll start feeling a lighter feeling naturally because you're moving out of the side of the brain that handles all the judgment and criticism, and you're moving into the abstract, the other side of your brain, the creative side. And when that happens as you're drawing, the feelings of the desire already being accomplished are like permeating your whole being.
Right.
And all it takes is 17 seconds of that to really create the magnet
That's
to kick
right.
in. Now, if you draw longer, then that just makes it that much more intense. But what are the magnet, and I should say what we're talking about with the magnet, and you're going to read it, is it simply means now that because of the concentration on drawing the outcome, my critical mind is out of the way. So now my subconscious mind is open to receive the new impression of my desire with the feeling. And now the subconscious mind, which is power without direction until we give it, usually we're telling it that's impossible, that's no good. But now we're giving it, this is possible. This is what I would love to happen.
Yes.
And that is where the magic begins.
That's right. Right.
And that's why we're recommending, and that's why Kathy brought up in one of her talks the method of adding, drawing the outcome you desire. Simple, like Ed was just describing.
Yeah, and like you said, the magnetic power becomes very evident when, as I'm drawing, then I start thinking of more things to draw, and I think of new words to add.
Yes,
like literally start yeah, right. And I've been really focusing on a lot lately. Like Charles Fillmore talked about imagination as one of the 12 powers, and anytime I'm thinking about something, this has been easy for me to understand. If it's not happening right now, on a subtler level, even if it is, but let's just say if it's not happening right now, my imagination is involved,
yes.
right? So doing the drawing and even writing thank you for things that are going to happen. This is now re-engaging my imagination. Because Florence Scovel calls it soul sleep. And my wife and I were talking about this. It's like, when I'm having this nightmarish outcomes and these fear-based ideas, I'm literally in a dream state. Right?
Yes.
And in that dream, I have to do this, this, and this before I can be okay. But the thing is, the nature of the dream, even if I do that, and that, I'm never going to really be okay because that dream is based on fear.
The vibration of the dream is...
Yes. It's like, but until I have these principles and practice it to realize, like, it's like waking up in a lucid dream, just realizing, hey, I'm dreaming. I have to wake myself out of that dream, not do all the things that dream mind is telling me to do, not try to solve. This is what Eric Butterworth talked about, treating the concern first, not the condition.
Yes.
So treat the part of my brain that's concerned. Wake up out of that soul sleep. Wake up into
my God,
inspired imagination, gratitude, remembering who I am. Because once I start doing that, I literally start remembering good things that have happened to me. Because when I'm in that fear, like I can't even access any success I've had. Like it's, you know what I mean? Because I'm not a vibrational match.
God, this is good.
But as soon as I switch to vibration, like the other day I was doing it, and I just had a memory of that. Those guys invited me to that wave pool in Palm Springs. But it was like, oh yeah, good things happened to me. And I remembered how it felt to serve. And it like, suddenly everything started shifting. And I literally became, from the outside, a different person.
Yeah.
There was no, you know what I mean? Now I had access to my whole self. And from the inside, I became a new person. It felt so good. I
want you to read this before we go, but I got to say this because you just helped me realize another new tool I'm going to start using. Often when I start thinking these thoughts, like, where I'm not thinking other than positive thoughts about my desires or my gratitude for what I have, appreciating my life right now.
Right.
Once I start to tank, in the shower or whatever, I'll go, nope, nope, nope.
Yeah.
You know, and
yeah.
I just read this morning, every time you say no, it weakens the old habit and strengthens the new one, you know, in
Yes.
thought. But now the way you're putting it, that I'm going to really now remind myself when I'm thinking fearful and doubtful that I'm falling back asleep.
Yeah.
Then I'm falling into
Yeah.
like the Adamic dream that
Yeah,
Florence
right.
Scovel sings, like Adam and Eve fell asleep,
Yes.
and there's no sign of mankind ever waking up until Jesus pops up onto into the story. But so now when I start thinking fearful, instead of just, you know, going no or whatever, I say, wake up, you're dreaming right now. You know, and now it makes sense, you know, when people would say, snap out of it. You know, when people are in self-pity or they're whining, you know, my dad would, come on, snap out of it.
Yeah.
Because it's funny how we don't realize where these what are they called? Colloquialisms?
Yes.
Where they come from.
Yeah.
But they're always based in spiritual truth.
That's why we often we'll use them as titles for our show because because I was thinking of that. That's just great. You know, people will say it, it's become like a sarcastic, but if you really think about it, that is just great. There's only good. You know, you're talking about the Adamic whatever dream. Schoonover talks about that a lot. And I remember thinking about that because I was raised Catholic, and I used to think about these things a lot in college before I even knew New Thought or practical Christianity or any of this stuff. And I just remember like it makes sense as a dream, right? Because I used to be someone who ran from life a lot. I mean, a lot. Like when I was a kid, if I was afraid of getting in trouble, you'd be there like, I'd be like 3 blocks away hiding in the bushes, right? So I know this dream well, this Adamic dream where you think God has kicked you out, right? So there's a quote, another biblical quote, and we're not Bible scholars, although we do our best to keep learning and reading, but it says like the fool fleeth when no man pursueth.
Yes, I love that one.
And that's kind of the Adam thing. It's like God never judged. There's no judgment in God.
Why are you running?
And he's running and telling everyone he meets, like, oh, don't go back. God's mad. You know, like, but the whole thing is just a dream of judgment, right? Like, and we wake up from that dream and we realize, because the best thing I can ever do, no matter what's happened before, is wake back up to my imprisoned splendor, let it out, wake up to my divinity, no matter what happened before.
Yes.
And just be like, oh, because we all fall asleep and we wake up again. And the more I realize this and own it, who cares? It's like, not that big a deal. If you fall asleep for a minute, if the more I forgive myself, the more I'm able to forgive you. It's like, it's not that big a deal. That's what we're here for. We're like little kids learning, you know? And I like this. Kirky.
Oh, this is great. We got a card.
A postcard. And if you want to send us a postcard, you can send it to Funniest Thing, P.O. Box 1312, Culver City, California, 90232, or anything for that matter. It's it's so funny because it says, I'm sorry, but I can't promise it won't happen again. This is exactly what I was just saying, because I'm going to fall asleep again. I'm sorry, but I can't promise. And this is a little raccoon standing here. But on the back, I love this because in my family, and I've noticed this in other people, timidity and an unwillingness to ask for what we want was talked about like it was a virtue. Like, oh, they never asked for anything. They were saints, you know, they never bothered it. But that is not.
No, that is hell.
That's not what Jesus was talking about. That's not what these New Thought teachings, because this says, for this is from Raymond Charles Barker and Ernest Holmes. Timidity has never been a virtue. And modern psychology has proved that it is a definite indication of a wrong habit pattern in the unconscious. As metaphysicians, we know that until we control our thinking, we shall never control the conditions of our environment, business, and personal health. The point of control is always within, and the wise person starts to assume dominion over his disorganized thinking. By the power of God in the midst of me, I now take dominion over my own thinking. And that's from Barker and Holmes. And that's from Kirky. So thank you, Kirky. That was a perfect reminder.
Yes.
Because timidity to me is a subtle form of self-pity, which I used to indulge in a lot. Like, oh, it's just, and I don't want to do that anymore. Like, I don't want to do that anymore. It doesn't work. Now that I've stepped in boldly in new directions and I'm doing a lot of new things and getting a lot of new results, I got no time for it. I'm not going to pretend timidity is what I'm here for. I'm here for boldness. Doesn't have to do with anyone else. It's boldness within myself, and then boldly sharing that light when I'm in the world. And I was able to do that in a meeting just 2 days ago. I was sharing boldly and joyfully and praising other people in the room, and it didn't feel odd. It just felt natural. And I wasn't
because it is natural.
So all the inner work that I've been doing, and I'm telling you, writing these letters every day, multiple times a day, has been a game changer because I remember I didn't think it was going to work yesterday either, but it did. So thank you. You know what I'm saying?
We'll wrap it up with this.
Yeah, we're on fire, man.
And the letters,
breaths too.
The letters Ed's talking about writing are the letters to God, the letters,
whatever you want to call
gratitude, the letters to himself, ourselves.
May McCarthy calls it Chief Spiritual Officer, I believe, CSO.
And that's real quick before you read this.
Yeah.
You could make it whatever you need at the time.
Right.
When I bought my first real rental property, I'm like, how am I going to get people? Like, how am I going to find the right tenant? And Mike Dugan, my mentor, said, what are you talking about? You don't have to worry about it. You got the best realtor working on your behalf than anyone. And then when I started working in the entertainment business, he would say, what are you worried? You don't have to struggle and scheme and manipulate. You have the best agent working on your behalf. And my mind, because I didn't have anything else to grab, I chose to believe that was true. Yeah. And it happens. Things happen.
So this is from The Magic Path of Intuition by Florence Scovel Shinn. There is a book that's a version that is not the Hay House version. That's just more plain, like Nancy Norman was saying. It's not.
That's the one.
It's not too busy, so we like that one. But you can get whichever one you like if you want to get the book. She says, prayer is telephoning to God and intuition is telephoning to you.
God telephoning.
Oh, sorry. I was thinking about that. Here, let me hand you that. Now let me read it again. Prayer is telephoning to God and intuition is God telephoning to you. True prayer means preparation. That's so true. Having major demands on the universal supply for any good thing, act immediately as if you expect to receive it. Show active faith, thereby impressing the subconscious mind with expectancy. And that's what that letter for me is. Active faith. There was a lady who knew the law of preparation and purchased expensive magazines to give herself the feeling of opulence. Intuition told her to buy the magazines. One way to cultivate intuition is to say before sleeping, in the morning I'll know just what to do. Ideas will flash before you even begin to reason. Prayer is telephoning to God, and intuition is God telephoning to you. Intuition comes from your superconscious mind. Intuition comes from your superconscious mind. It is God within. The subconscious is simply power without direction. What you feel deeply or say with a feeling is impressed upon the subconscious and carried out in the minutest detail. It is your soul and must be restored. Impress the subconscious with the perfect ideas of the superconscious mind instead of the doubts and fears of the conscious mind. And then she says, one affirmation, stand still and see the power within me. We got to do the breath.
Yeah, I was just thinking, we're going to close this segment with our 3 breaths.
Let me give a shout out to Grace Deathridge, who loved the last episode with Will Rubio called If Not Now, When? She said, thank you for this fun episode. Smiling as I tune in. I have the Emmett Fox book too, around the year, I believe. Yep. Through watching the show, and some friends of mine in the UK who now listen to your show also read the same book daily now.
Wow.
The waves from The Funniest Thing are always flowing and blessing. And someone named Blueberry on YouTube said, the time is now. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. Close by. Amen, amen,
wow.
Amen. We love Blueberry.
Are you ready for these 3 breaths?
Yeah. Okay.
You know this.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to do it the first one? Just
you sure?
Yeah, because you grew up with Huey Lewis posters on your wall.
This wasn't Huey Lewis, was it?
Yeah.
It was?
I think so. Actually, and I actually, when I was like 11, I think I was 9, somewhere between 9 and 11. Okay. Huey Lewis was the one of the only CDs that they sold at Sears next to the CD player, so I had the sports. Yeah,
he didn't look like a rock star. He looked like a coach for an NFL football team.
But he did make fine videos. All right, let's take
ready? I'm taking what God's given and having fun for a living. I don't know if that's how it goes.
I'm taking what God's given and having fun for a living. That's definitely not the melody. I should have started it.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah. I'm taking what God's given. And
Having fun for a living.
That was a little bumpy, but you know what? This is the truth. And I'm telling you, these letters that I've been writing, just a small little thing that I've added to my practice, but it just reminds me that I'm literally taking what God's given. Even today for the show, it's like I'm offloading all the burden that was on my shoulders back to where it belongs, onto God, and I'm just showing up to receive and deliver the goods. And I can feel my shoulders dropping. I can feel my health improving. Like everything improves when we allow ourselves to know that. I had the image, and I've heard it before, but when I woke up the other day, first my mind was plugged into this belief that I'm limited. And it's like I had to pull that out and plug it into the awareness of my unlimited supply, and it changes everything. Because those limited thoughts, those fearful thoughts are based on the erroneous notion that there's a limited supply. Once we plug that back into the awareness, and this is truth, it's principle. It does not matter if Darrell or Ed or it's principle. Apply it in your life, practice these things, and see it for yourself. But plugging in, you will be blown away. All right, coming up next, Miracle Madam, amazing author, speaker. She's done a lot of things in business, amazing things. We're just happy. We consider her a friend of the show already. We love people who live by these principles, and May McCarthy is definitely one of those people. Today, she encourages us to trust our intuitive leads, and a lot more with today's reading, Willing and Expectant. Thank you for listening to Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed. We're right here, episode 100, CHOBO Studios. Indy's meditating, that little darling. All right, welcome back to Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed. We are very pleased to introduce you all, if you haven't met her before, the great May McCarthy. How are you?
I am great. Thank you very much. Love the opening.
Oh, man. I'm glad to hear that. Your home looks beautiful. Where are you?
Texas, in a little tiny town that is north of San Antonio.
Oh, great.
Little town called Bernie. We're going to be sort of in the center of the viewing of the eclipse in April.
Oh,
wow.
Yes.
NASA set up camp about a half hour north of us.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my son's favorite bands is Vampire Weekend, and they're having a show during the eclipse so that they can pause in the middle. They're going to be in Austin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Not very far from us. We're about an hour just say hour and a half from Austin.
Great. So you are the consummate professional. Sometimes we do a lot of the talking, but we know you're a pro. Don't worry, we'll talk as well. But you've been listening to us go on, and I know your clip comes loaded. So I was just wondering if you had some things to share right off the bat based on what we've been talking about or what you brought to the table today.
Okay, so first of all, love Kathy and Nancy Norman.
Yes.
Love Florence Shin. Love Catherine Ponder. I've given away hundreds of their books because I think that I wish they taught this in more places, but I'm glad you guys are out there sharing this message, helping people recognize that words, thoughts, emotions, they create the life that we're living. And all of those authors, and Emmett Fox and Charles Fillmore, and they're all teaching the same thing, just packaged a little differently. And what we're hoping is that as people really recognize that they're creating the reality that they're living in, then maybe they'll make a choice to create something that works for them and is good for them and good for everyone. I think this is not a selfish practice. This is a practice that enables you to experience your highest and greatest good, and it allows everyone else to experience theirs as well. I like the idea of drawing, except that I'm not very good at that. And I write as that's my art is writing. But I have used what I call gratitude boards, and some people use the term vision boards or goal boards, but essentially it's looking at what I consider to be the 6 areas of importance in your life. And they get a piece of poster board and they divide it up into 6 areas. And then they put pictures that represent the completed outcome of their goals in those different areas. And as they look at that and they see that, it's as they look at it first, they're better able to imagine it in their heads. Because there's a lot of people that can't just drum up an image in their mind.
Right.
They need to see something first in order to spur that. And when we see a completed picture of, somebody laughing because they got a promotion, or high-fiving somebody because they closed a big deal, and or seeing their kids out, playing, whatever their goals are in any area of their life, a big bank account, time with family and friends that looks like they're having fun, and, harmonious relationships, whatever their goals are. When they see a picture of something that looks like the completed goal, it hits the emotion. And it's our words, our thoughts, and our emotions that send out that energy that you referred to earlier, where we try and get on par energetically with the thing that we would like to experience in our life. So that can help raise the energy to the same level. Anyway, so that was one of the things that I enjoyed. And I also...
Could I stop you for a moment and ask you a question, if you don't mind?
Sure.
Would you mind sharing what the 6 areas are that you help people address?
Oh, sure. So finances is one. Using your skills and talents in ways that are fulfilling and satisfying and rewarding. Harmonious relationships. Health. Recreation, because you got to have time to rebalance and, recharge yourself, and spiritual connection. In no order of importance. If it's my order of importance, this is first.
Spiritual
connection. Yeah.
Can I say one thing now that you just hit on that?
Sure.
I don't know if a lot of our listeners heard of this. I'm going to draw it. And I don't know if you have. You might have, because you've been at this a while and read a lot of the books that we talk about. But I'm just drawing something here for our viewers who are looking. And if you're looking on, if you can't see this because you're listening to us, you could take a look on YouTube, but I'm going to explain it as best I can. And it's this thing called, I just drew 2 circles. Can I just, I can't see our camera. Hang on one second. There we go. Okay. So I just drew 2 circles, May, and underneath I wrote pies. Have you ever heard of pies?
Well, actually, I worked for a very large Fortune 500 company that used that term.
Okay.
And their definition of pie was not accurate.
Oh, okay. Well, these pies are very delicious pies. These pies represent the 4 parts of us: physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual. And when I was introduced to this, the man who introduced it to me was a man named Mike Dugan. And he said, before I met you, Darrell, he said, if you make the circle and we turned it into a pie chart, he said, what you would see on my pie chart at that time would have been 85% physical, meaning I was always running around trying to fix my life by attaining, I got to do the right amount of exercise. I got to get the right job, the right house. I got to make so much money in order to enjoy the things I would like to do. So most of his motivation came from the physical. He was living primarily 85% on the physical plane. And then he put 10% emotional. 10% emotional, because when things didn't work out on the physical plane, if he thought something was going to interrupt what he wanted to get, or something was going to come and ruin what he already had, his emotions would be erratic, and then they would continue to affect his drive on the physical plane. He said, I was only about 5% intellectual, and he goes, or intelligent. And he says, the reason I put that, because if I was any more intelligent than I was, I would have realized a lot sooner that the way I was experiencing my emotions, that the way I was living, the way I was operating, was not an intelligent way to be operating. So he said, well, what do you think? You know, we live here on Earth in the third dimension. What do you think would be the optimum experience for us? And at first, when I was new, I thought, oh, all spiritual. But he just made perfect quarters. And he said it would be a balance of physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual. And I said, well, how do I do that? Because you'd think, oh, well, I got to do this much spiritual prayer. I got to read so many books. And unfortunately, a lot of success coaches, they make attaining balance feel like hard work because they're coming from the P, the physical, scheme and worry, the emotions driving the physical. I'm going to segment my life. But you could throw all that out the window, folks, because the good news is if you just focus on the spiritual, what you need to do to maintain your spiritual well-being, everything we talk about on the show, all these little practices we talk about, if you just mind that, well, your physical needs seem to be proportionate and well taken care of. Your emotional nature is not as erratic as it would be had you been operating primarily in the third dimension, the physical plane. And your intellect is now being used intelligently.
Right.
Because now you're basing your intellect on spiritual principles, divine laws.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not trying to scheme, you're not worrying and scheming, you're aligning. You know how to align yourself to the truth. So that was pi. So when you said S, you believe is the number one thing for you, I think intuitively it's the number one thing. And if you want to experience a balance in your life, it seems to be the shortcut to experiencing that balance. Don't you agree, Ed?
I do. I'm writing everything you're saying down. I love it.
How about, so what did you think of pies, May?
I like it. That's great acronym. I think I'll remember that.
Yeah, feel free to steal it and share it.
If viewers want to go back, there's a 10-year-old video on Funniest Thing with Darrell and Ed YouTube of us doing it from your garage.
Yeah.
It's called Pies Like Us.
Pies Like Us.
Yeah, so very
Right, that one
lot,
too.
the lighting was not nearly as good, I have to say.
No.
Yeah. So, all right.
Now y'all look great.
Yeah, nowadays we've followed these principles all the way to CHOBO
The
Studios.
breadcrumbs all the way here. It was crazy.
Yeah, when Unity Online Radio closed their doors, we decided we're just going to shove off on our own, and we ended up here. So it always works out. Yeah.
I had a show on Unity Online Radio too. It was called Abundance Incorporated.
Oh, wow.
Abundance Incorporated. When did you do the show on Unity Online Radio?
When they closed, I started the show maybe 2 years before that.
Oh, okay. Okay, so were you there when they actually closed the doors?
Yeah.
It was a sudden closure.
But what I would do is, because my travel schedule and all the other stuff going on in my life, I had done a weekly show, and then I said, sorry, I can't do this every week. But they didn't want to lose the content. So we did a recording once a month with a guest, and then they played it every Friday.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, we do you remember Jeff Comfort from the net? He was, I don't know if you ever worked with him directly because he was the engineer.
I got a cell phone.
Oh, nice. Yeah, he's still friends with us. He still puts our stuff up on the audio.
We forgot to thank.
Oh
may
yeah.
as well
By the
thank
way,
him.
May, for a moment, we want to thank
Where
Jeff
does
Comfort.
he take us?
We want to thank Jeff Comfort.
Each week.
He takes us
Right into the comfort zone. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's the one still responsible putting us up on the audio for all our podcast listeners.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I enjoy all of the people that work there. They were just delightful. Have you ever been to Unity Village?
Yes.
Several times.
We
Yeah.
were just there in November, matter of fact.
Yeah, there's a Fillmore Bible Society gathering. We were invited to speak at the first annual conference for that. They're putting together the metaphysical interpretations, Fillmore's metaphysical, easy to use New Testament at the moment, but they're going to do the whole thing. And so
the New Testament's actually done, and you could order it through Truth Unity.
Yeah,
I think
free.
it's for free. And they're
It's
working.
amazing.
They're working on the Old Testament
Yeah.
right now. So it has all the biblical text with
right next to it, just annotated with
Yes.
what Fillmore thought about each, line or whatever.
the
or
metaphysical,
idea,
the
metaphysical meaning.
esoteric meaning. Yeah, from the Unity writings.
What a great resource.
Oh, it's fantastic because anytime we come across a Bible quote now, if it's in the New Testament, we look it up in this Fillmore Metaphysical Bible, we'll read it, and then we'll see the annotation of the esoteric meaning, the metaphysical meaning, and it really helps wake up your mind to, this is practical. This
Yeah.
is something I could apply to my mind right now
Right.
on this circumstance and transform it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fabulous.
Yeah, we're probably going to be there beginning of of 2025 to do a little conference. Denise Blake is putting it together for Darrell and Ed to come back, so we're excited about that.
Terrific. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was there in the January right before the whole COVID breakout. And it was I hosted a retreat, an intentions retreat for a group of people that had come in to Unity Village, and they just did a top-notch job.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to host a retreat,
Yes.
that's a great place to do it.
Oh, yeah.
The hotel there is beautiful. It's so nice to
It is.
stay there.
I love all the words on the wall.
Yes.
And the deer that run by and everything, and just it's
They
so
even have
prayer
a-
conditioned with the history of New Thought and the great people that have been there. You can
Yeah.
feel it, right?
They even have a little golf course there.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm a golf.
I'm kind of curious, May, because we'll encourage people where they can find you online, and you do a lot of speaking, and they can find talks. But I'm just kind of curious where you were in your life when you came upon these principles, and how things changed for you, and how did you become the person you are now through, with regards to this stuff.
Sure. So I grew up in a family also raised Catholic, the
Mhm.
last of 10 children, born and raised in Hawaii.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I, it wasn't difficult to, sit on the beach and look out and know that there was something greater than myself that was around. And so we had a practicing faith growing up in our family. And when I was just about ready to go off to college, my mother gave me the little book called The Game of Life and how to play it.
Wow.
Now, my mom was raised Seventh-day Adventist, and she converted to Catholicism in her 20s. And I would have thought that this little book would have been the last thing that she would have given me based on her faith. But she said, you're a little different. And I think that this will be helpful to you. Also, when I was 10 years old, she took me to a weekend seminar and brought along some of the other kids in our family. Not all of them, but a couple of the other ones. And the person at the door said, no, this is for adults only. And she said, well, this 10-year-old can handle this. She used to take me out of school when I was 8 years old and take me with her to college. She went back to school with 10 kids and a husband and volunteer positions. And she went back to school and got her bachelor's degree. She already had a nursing degree, but she went back to school, and she dragged me out of my Catholic primary school and take me to college with her because she thought I was smart enough to handle it.
Wow.
And yeah, it was she didn't do that for any of the other kids. So for some reason, she sort of singled me out, and she took me to this seminar called Silva Mind Control.
Ah, okay.
So Jose Silva's work, and it was being put on at a hotel in Waikiki, and there were lots and lots and lots of people there. And I remember one of the exercises where we were broken up into partners. And if you're my partner, you have a little index card. And on that index card is somebody's name, whether it's a man or a woman, the city and state they live in, and the physical diagnosis that they have of some sort of illness. Now, you will tell me that this is, a 49-year-old woman. And you might even tell me that she lives in Kansas. But that's all. And you're looking at this card, and I use the tool to go into my meditation to get to that alpha state. And I start to think, I created this little workshop in my mind, and I put this 39-year-old woman up on my screen, or her age, I can't remember, but I put her up on my screen, and I started scanning her body, and I might see, like right here where your lungs are, this big black and red spot. And so what I would do is take my scissors, which are, for a 10-year-old, I've got the little rounded, kids' scissors, and I'd cut that out. And then I'd cut a similar sized piece of white paper, and I'd tape it, over that spot. And I would explain to you, my partner, what I saw and what I did. And then I would come out of my meditative state, and they would say, yes, she has lung cancer. So my dad, who was a surgeon, came and did that exercise. After that, he walked out and wouldn't come back. And because a surgeon needs to actually physically diagnose someone after seeing them. And he was able to diagnose the person that was on that card with his partner. And that freaked him out. So that's how I got started in all this.
This is incredible. I love that story.
Yeah, me too.
When did you leave Hawaii? I mean, how long did you grow up? When did you leave Hawaii? I was actually stationed in Hawaii, and I was introduced to all this while I was in Hawaii, and that was throughout the 80s. I left in 1990.
Okay, so when did you get there?
I got there in 1984.
Okay, I left in 81.
Darn, I missed you.
Oh no, I'm telling you my age.
No, it doesn't matter.
Off to college.
Actually, wait a minute. You're younger than me.
So I went off to college with that book, and I thought I had a miracle making formula. Honestly, all I had to do was use my words, thoughts, and emotions, and I could achieve whatever I wanted. I was able to graduate from college with honors in 3 years while growing a business with 250 people. And it was bizarre that, it seemed so easy. And as I spiritually matured, and life started doing life on life's terms, then it wasn't so carefree. I had different responsibilities, and sometimes those can pull you away from this, joyous and free life of being a student and running a company, right?
Right.
There's more stuff now that's going on. So I would get a little lax in my practice, and then some crises would happen. And I'd have to call all my friends and family and get everybody power praying, and I would power pray just to get back to
Yeah.
manifesting peace and
Right.
manifesting solutions. And it was this emotional roller coaster ride. You know, everything would be going good, and then I'd get lax, and then I'd have to have a crisis show up and power pray. So that emotional roller coaster ride was just exhausting. And I had, continued with Catholicism, but I continued studying everyone that I could find that was like Catherine Ponder and Emma Curtis Hopkins and Emmett Fox and the Fillmores and Ernest Holmes, and studying everybody I could. But I didn't realize there were churches like that until my sister started going to a Unity church. And from there, she went to Centers for Spiritual Living and became a reverend there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so in
That's
2005,
amazing.
yeah. So, and she's a fabulous businesswoman. I mean, extremely great. But she does that as well. And she teaches classes and whatnot. And she had me teach, she had created a program called the Better Business Network. And they would meet once a month, early morning for breakfast. And there were about 100 people that would come to this. And she always had a topic. And then once a month, they'd also do a class for this same group. And so she invited me to teach a lot on business. By that time, I had already had 5 of my 8 different businesses. And so she thought I knew a little something about business.
Yeah.
Come in and teach about that and how to use spiritual principles while doing business.
Yeah.
And achieve greater success. So started doing that. And then in, I guess it was early 2000s, the leadership of that center took me aside and said, "What are you doing to be so successful?" Now, by this time, I had devised my daily practice that I write about in my book, The Path to Wealth. And I actually thought it was kind of a trick question. Like, what am I doing? Well, I'm doing what you're teaching.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And so they,
Yes.
no, that's not what we're asking. You're using something, a success principle, because we don't have anyone that tithes at the level that you do. We've never had anyone that tithes that much. And so what are you doing? And so I explained my daily practice and how I operate through life with God as my partner, with spirit as my partner, divine intelligence, universal power, call it whatever you want. But I explained the program and they asked if I'd teach a workshop. So that was so successful that another one happened and another one and another one. And after about the 500th person had gone through and said they had success, I was asked to write a book. And so I thought, no, not doing it. Because when I took the SATs to go to college, it happened to be a really, really, really good day of surfing. I mean, really good day of surfing. The winds were blowing in the opposite direction. You
Yeah.
might remember hearing Kona winds.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You were in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And so the waves were excellent. And I looked at my friend John and I said, I want to leave and go to the beach. And he goes, I do too. So I just did not do the English portion of my SAT. Now I graduated in high school with very, very good grades. And so after I got accepted to all the colleges that I applied for, and I chose the one in Seattle, they told me I had to test again for English because there must have been an electronic error or something because I had a 0. And I smiled to myself and I said, well, what are the other options? Because by now I'm hearing that freshman English is a nightmare for anybody going to college. And I said, so what are the other options? And they said, well, you could take English as along with the foreign students, English as a second language. And I said, really? Do I get the same credits? And they said, sure. So I did.
Oh,
And you know
man.
what? you know what? I think God put me there because there were legitimately other kids from Hawaii that needed to be in that class.
Wow.
Because in Hawaii, we have a language. I call it a lazy language. No offense to anybody from Hawaii that's listening, but we're very efficient. And so we skip words and we talk quickly to get to the meaning that we want. So instead of saying I went to the store the other day and then I went surfing, we would say went started a date and went surf. So we're very efficient and we leave out words. So there were kids in that class that truly would never have been able to pass freshman English. So I was there to help them.
Wow.
And of course I aced the class and I avoided all the agony
Yeah.
in freshman English we're having. So that's when I was ready to write a book or asked to write a book, I kept thinking, I can't be an author because I took English as a second language in college. But I wrote all of the marketing for all of the companies that I've been involved with. I've written all the legal contracts and I love to write. I write lots and lots of stuff for business, but somehow there was that little block.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't be an author. So in my second book called The Gratitude Formula, that was written specifically for people that have had success with the path to wealth. They've been able to achieve and manifest the things that they desire as long as they believe that they can have them. But what about those goals that you don't believe you can have? Right? Well, that's where I was with writing a book. I didn't believe that I could do that because I had this identity as somebody that had taken English as a second language. And so what ended up happening for me is I started using exactly the same tools that I write about. I went out and I met other people that were writers. I met people that had published books. I kept using my daily practice to say that I am a successful published author and that this work that Spirit is using me as a vehicle for is making its way all over the world and helping and blessing people, showing them that they can partner with Spirit the same way that I do and achieve the things that they want. So I started using that. I met other writers. I did what I could to make the success that I wanted familiar. And some of these successful authors, I thought, oh my God, if they could do it, I could do it. And so once that belief happened, once I believed that it was possible, then my brain ended up unmuting the channel that intuitive messages come to me. So, it turned out really good. As a matter of fact, I'm next month going to South Africa and we'll be speaking at a big event there. There's a group of people that are teaching my learning series that's available. They've been teaching it in Sweden, the Middle East, South Africa, Germany, all over the US. And it's so wonderful because I don't have to be there in person to do that. These people are using this material to bless people all over the world. I just love that.
That is awesome.
That's why we enjoy doing this podcast because, every once in a while we'll think, what's the point? Why do we do it? Because we just see the three of us here, me, and I look at Indy in the monitor, Ed. But then we forget that, wait a minute, we don't know who's listening to this in their car and benefiting from it. Or we've discovered people in other countries have written us. That letter we got that Ed read at the beginning, she's from Great Britain, the UK. And it's like that's the great thing about the way the world is now. And like you authoring these books and putting it in paper, it's just how the Fillmores did it. You don't have to have a brick and mortar place to do good work and help a lot of people. You know, if you write a book, that can go everywhere. You're not. But you know what? Whenever I read a book, no matter what it is, it's actually a friend. This is how I've always been reading these books for so long, and your book as well. It would be taken if I started reading it. It would be like you are actually a friend of mine now,
Yes.
encouraging me with your
Yes.
words, even though we say it's a book. But that's how powerful these tools are. And it's so wonderful to hear that you're not in all these places, but your spirit is, and you're helping to keep these ideas and this inspiration and this feeling of motivation of just try this practice, and you too really will. And it's not a gimmick. It's not, you know, you have to buy anything special other than just do what I do. It's like Jesus, the great way shower, you know, follow the leader.
Well, I want to point out, though, that what I ask people to do is follow the practice as written. It takes a half an hour in the morning, and then it's fun all day long. And then at night, there's a short practice as well. But after 30 days, I ask them to do it for 30 days as written. But after that, I have to trust, and I tell them to trust themselves as well, because now they've had 30 days of partnering with their source of intuition, with God, with spirit, with divine intelligence. And it stands to reason, since I am an individual expression of God, my fingerprints are different than anybody else's, my DNA is different than anyone else's. It stands to reason that my way to connect with spirit may be different than how spirit wants to connect to other people. So I ask them to try it for 30 days as written, but if they feel any divine inspiration to modify it some, I want them to be able to know they can do that, because their relationship with God is their own. It's their personal relationship. What I want to do is just help them get started in that routine, because I really do believe that repetition reaps rewards. And if we wake up and do this practice, then we do also what Florence Scovel Shins tells us. She says that if we let the rest of the world program what's in our subconscious, then we're going to believe in whatever they believe in. But if we program our own first thing in the morning, then our subconscious is going to filter billions of pieces of data that are coming at us all day long and illuminate those things that are in alignment with what we programmed in our brains. So my advice is, you know what? Program your own brain. Don't let the rest of the world program your brain for you.
Yep.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Well, we've got to give Florence Scovel Shinn credit for that one.
Yeah, and all of her teachers as well. Do
you know if she was a student of Emma Curtis Hopkins?
That's the great mystery. She was a student. She was a student of Ernest Wilson, who was a Unity student, because she refers to him in one of her books.
Okay, all right.
But I'm sure they all, because Emma Curtis Hopkins was the teacher.
Nancy mentioned something about Florence Scovel Shinn and who her teachers were recently. We'll have to check in with her.
Yeah, we'll check in with Nancy Norman and get back to you.
Yeah, she, I know Emma Curtis. I love Emma's work. And she's, oh my gosh, it's nice to have somebody to guide you through her high mysticism and scientific Christian mental practice. But, you know, she's always referred to as the teacher's teacher.
Yeah.
She taught Holmes and the Fillmores.
Yep.
Yeah. And a lot of other people as well.
A lot of other people. But boy, I sure love her work.
Yeah.
Really, really excellent.
Well, you're carrying it on quite nicely, and she appreciates it. That much I know. Yeah, well, that's one thing I've learned through the show. When we start reading these people, you know, just like if I was when I leave this plane, and if someone else is picking up the same stuff we're teaching, we're going to want to cheer them on. They're all cheering us on. Like anyone who's willing to be crazy enough or just audacious enough to live this stuff and like really take it into your work, your family, your life.
Yeah.
They're cheering us on. It's really helpful for me to always remember that. And I my question was answered just by you, which is beautiful, because I was thinking, because I've been in public schools for a long time, and now I'm shifting to, I want to just liberate more energy, like do more with what I've learned by practicing this stuff. And I was thinking to myself, well, how could someone who doesn't have like the template of like being a successful business person outside of like a structured kind of environment where you're getting a salary, and that's kind of what I was kind of groomed to be. But you reminded me when you described how you approach being an author, and I love what you said about once your subconscious mind agrees to it, then it unmutes the channel of information. And I can relate it to like the very simple thing. You surf, I surf. When I was in 39, I wanted to learn how to do airs on a surfboard. And I just kept looking at the guys doing it. And I just kept going, they do it, I can do it. They're a person, I'm a person. And I would sit there, even if I didn't come up with anything that day, but suddenly I started remembering when I was 12 and I used to ride skateboards and do ramps. And the muscle memory started coming back. And within a year, it just started happening. So much so that now when I look back, I go, wow, that really was happening more than I even realized, But like, so now when I'm looking at you, I'm like, well, she can do it. Let me just take her in and just start unmuting.
Yeah.
Because I hear it. I get these visions, but I got to just keep unmuting that part and muting the part that's going like hard, scary. That doesn't work. It's because my family had a lot of stories about they almost made it. They could have done this, and it's
and they're virtuous because they didn't. It's so twisted.
Yeah. So watching you and being in your presence is a blessing to me personally and to everyone out there who's listening and watching. So, and everyone beyond that, just the fact that you took your time to be with us today is really something we are grateful for. So thank you.
You're welcome. So think about, for your listeners and also for you, think about what we used to do when we were kids. We wanted to learn how to ride a bike, right? Were we perfect the first time? No. I had so much road rash. It was awful. Mm-hmm. I know. But what we did was we watched other people. We saw how they did it. We practiced. We thought about it. We could feel in our mind, sailing down the road with the wind going through our hair. And even my brothers, they would, make these jumps. And I mean, I could see myself doing it, right? And then now you could probably get on a bike anytime, anywhere and ride, even if you haven't ridden for years. Mm-hmm. Same thing with driving a car. We weren't perfect. We had to practice, right? Mm-hmm. Practice. And then, and reading. I mean, we weren't perfect. Now you can probably read, just by skimming, you can read really, really fast. We used to have to sound out every single word and then try and make sense in our heads. And don't even get me started on typing. Oh my God. I started typing. I mean, I'm looking at this keyboard thinking it's not even in alphabetical order.
Right.
And how in the world am I going to do that? And I can tell you that I can sometimes type faster than I can talk. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, we practiced in order to accomplish something. And we made it familiar and we made it welcome. And sometimes when we're thinking about doing something that we love and we're not getting the intuitive hits to do it, there might be something that's really hidden, some sort of old belief. I had a woman that took a workshop from me, and she's great, and I stayed in contact with her, and she's a scientist. I work at a big cancer research center, and she wanted, one of her goals she was writing about in her CSO practice every day, her letter that she was writing had to do with singing part-time professionally and getting paid for it. And so she came to me several months later and said she was going to give up on that goal because she hadn't gotten any leads, any intuitive hits in order to move forward. And I said, well, wait a minute, let's talk about that. I said, first of all, can you sing? And she sang for me, and I got goosebumps. I mean, this girl can sing. And I said, well, tell me about, growing up and singing. Did you sing a lot when you were a kid? Oh, yeah, she was in all of the school musicals. And every time she was in college, her friends would want to go out to karaoke so they could put her on stage. And she just loved singing. All the family parties, she was asked to sing. She loved singing. And I said, did you ever want to be a professional singer? And she said she did. When she was going to high school, she really had thought about that. But her parents told her it was very, very foolish. It was a foolish idea. She shouldn't plan on having this as a career. What she needed to do was do well in school, get through college, get a sensible degree and a sensible job, right? So this is the belief that she had. Singing is okay for fun. Singing is not okay for livelihood or money. So I said, do this for me. Go out to some clubs, small clubs, and that with people that sing the style of music that you want to sing, which is, kind of music with jazzy music with a trio, maybe, that kind of thing. And I gave her some names of clubs that I had known. I'd seen performers like that. And so she went. And she was listening to him. And she thought, yeah, God, I could see myself sort of doing that. But, how do I get into it? There's so much that's scary. So she then was invited to, by her boss, to go to this fundraiser at one of those mega mansions. It was a fundraiser to raise money for the Cancer Research Center. And so she saw this trio and singer playing in the corner, and she kind of inched her way closer, and she was listening to him, and she was watching that girl sing. And she was comparing herself to that woman that was singing. And she thought, oh my God, I could do that. I could be the one here performing tonight.
Yes.
And right then, her brain said, okay.
Yep.
I don't have to be worried about you anymore, because the reason it was keeping intuitive messages on mute was it hates when we get disappointed. It hates when we create a goal for ourselves and we don't achieve it, and then we're disappointed. So what it does is it mutes these intuitive messages in order to protect us. And it says, until you believe it's possible, I'm not letting these messages come through. So that happened. Then she was invited, short time later, she was invited to this other party. She said no. Then another friend invited her to the same party. She said no. Then another friend invited her to the same party, and she thought, wait a minute. 3 friends. CSO, is this a lead from you? And so she decided, okay, I'll just go. She went to this party, and it was like there was a spotlight on this guy across the room. And he started moving, and the spotlight was on his head the whole way. And he came right up to her and stuck out his hand and introduced himself. And as they were talking, he said that, he had volunteered. He volunteers at this community center, and he had volunteered to head up this fundraising event. And he's responsible. Right now, he has to look for entertainment. Right then, her gut is yelling at herself, and it's saying, tell him you're a singer. Tell him you're a singer. And so she blurts that out. I'm a singer. And he goes, great, come audition. And she got her first paying gig.
Yep.
Wow.
And since then, she has been singing part-time. And, that community is pretty small. Everybody gets to meet each other that sings.
Yeah.
And she does that part-time and is absolutely loving life. She's still a scientist. She loves her work.
Right.
But she is having fun. So making it familiar and welcome is going out and reading stories about, or finding people that you can talk to that are experiencing and learning what their stories were, because their stories are probably coming from pretty humble beginnings, just like where you are.
Wow. Great.
Ed's taking notes, ladies and gentlemen. in case you're wondering why it's quiet.
Yeah. Oh, this is great. Wow. Wow.
Well, are you ready to tell a little story about May McCarthy?
Before we do that, where can people follow you,
where can they find you?
What books should they be reading of yours? Tell us a little bit about how we can continue to follow you around.
Yeah. If they just want to go to maymccarthy.com, there's a wealth of information on there. There's lots and lots of links to videos. I do have a YouTube channel, and there's just tons of videos, lots of different media interviews, just lots of stuff that they can access for free. And at maymccarthy.com, there's also the first 3 chapters of each of my books that they can read for free too.
Oh, brilliant.
Great.
Dude,
Yeah.
that's
So
awesome.
if they like it, then they can certainly find a copy. And if not, at least they'll have 3 chapters for free.
There you
It's
go.
like that old Alka-Seltzer commercial. Try it. You'll like it.
Okay, well.
You know
on
why
that
I'm
note.
getting impatient, Ed? Because that cupcake has my name on it. Literally.
Right?
I'm getting like, I got to have this. And it actually has my name on it.
Only May
I
was
love it.
here. We'd love to share with you, May, if you were here.
And I wanted a chocolate one too. So thank you, Tori. I don't know how she read
Yeah.
my mind.
Now, this
Sure.
story does not really track with what we've learned from May McCarthy, but we found this somewhere.
And it was in Honolulu, TMZ.
Yeah. So apparently, before May McCarthy uncovered these principles and became a successful entrepreneur, author, visionary, new thought, prosperity leader, she was a seeker struggling to make ends meet. May was telling Darrell and Ed.
At one point, I applied to go to school at psychic school.
Darrell and Ed asked.
Did you end up going?
May shrugged.
No, I couldn't afford the intuition.
Oh my God, that's terrible.
Listen, May, that's a compliment because the worse the joke, it means the more we love you. Isn't that right, Ed?
That's right.
Because I just made that up.
That's right.
That's
right.
Very cute.
Well, we got to take this out of here with a little spiritual hymn.
A spiritual hymn by BTO.
Yes, Bachman Turner Overdrive.
Okay, you ready, Ed? You know the.
Okay, you ready?
You know how it goes.
Yeah, we rented a
Truck and a semi to God. Travel down the long and the winding road. Look at the map. I think we're ready before.
Close up the doors.
Let's roll once more.
God's on the corner, looking straight to the right. I don't need no ticket, so I screamed out of sight. Drove so fast that my eyes can't see. Look in the mirror, God's still following me. Let it roll.
Do, 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 do.
Down the highway.
Do, 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 do.
Let it roll.
Do, 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 do.
Down the highway.
Da, 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 da. Visit DarrellandEd.com
MayMcCarthy.com.
to find easy links to everything we do. And thanks for being a part of Funniest
CHOBO.
Thing with
Let it
Darrell
roll.
and Ed. Down the highway. No.
Let it roll.
No.
Down
The highway. Roll.
What a show.
Oh, man, I'm so excited for my cupcake. I've been waiting.
May McCarthy, thank you so much.
$500. Really? See, $200 for you, sir. $100 for you. What the heck? $100 for you. No way. Are you serious? Yeah, I'll give you $100. Of course. Thank you so much.
When you record your podcast at CHOBO Studios, you're helping people in need. Here at CHOBO, we take a bold stance on helping the community by giving away 10% of all revenue, not just profit, to kind, hardworking people in the streets of Los Angeles. And thanks to all these wonderful podcasters, we've been able to give $1,400 this year alone through our kindness initiative, CHOBO Kindness. Brought to you by CHOBO Studios, LA's premier podcasting powerhouse. Follow for more.